Welcome back to this latest episode of Japan's Top Business Interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, President of Dale Carnegie Tokyo Training, and my special guest today is Hiroaki Mori, who is the President and CEO of McCann Japan.
Hello.
Great
Hello,
to have you
David.
with me. Thank you, Mori-san.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Yeah,
I'm
so,
very happy to share my
yeah,
experience
your
and
views on
thoughts.
leadership.
Thank you.
I'm interested to explore that.
Mhm.
So just before we get into the questioning, just how did you get to become President and CEO of McCann Japan? What's the sort of background in your career?
Kind of a quite unique story. When, let's say, yes, I'm starting my career since 1990. Just graduate the university, I joined this industry. My first job interview is McCann at the moment,
wow.
but I'm failed.
Oh.
And then I joined some Japanese company and working the 27 years. I have actually good experience during my career in Japanese domestic company. Live in US, live in China, so I have a lot of experience. And then when I'm thinking of back to Tokyo, what kind of opportunity I have, and luckily I can get this opportunity. So that's why I yes,
no
finally, someone said our HR find me more than almost 30 years, kind of things to happen. Yes, but 5 years ago I joined the company.
Right.
Yes, and then I kind of take initiative to lead the McCann Tokyo now. Yes.
So prior to that, you were leading in the previous company too?
Kind of, yes. So I may say, yes, I have a Hakuhodo experience.
Mm-hmm.
I started a career in Hakuhodo 1990s, and then I moved to China, running the TBWA Hakuhodo China in Guangzhou and a couple of offices in China. So this is kind of my first experience running the company, in China.
Right. So did you have experience running teams when you were in the States? When you were working there?
In the US, I watched a kind of training / learning to run a kind of Western ways,
Right.
because just before settle up a TBWA Hakuhodo, so someone need understanding how Western agencies, especially creative agency, working for the client.
Right.
Yeah. So and then come back to Japan, join TBWA Hakuhodo, say kickoff, and then move to China.
Right.
Yeah, to run
And
the
then back
company.
here and then
Yes,
to
yes,
Japan.
yes.
So this would be an interesting contrast.
Mhm.
If you think about you're leading a team in
Mhm,
China,
mhm.
and then you come back and you're leading teams in
Mhm,
Japan.
mhm.
What was the contrast, the difference of leading a Chinese team and a Japanese team?
Honestly, when I was in China, only myself is Japanese.
Ah.
So quite tough situation. Yes, China, Japan has a lot of sensitivity. It's sometimes good, sometimes bad, etc. But the big difference between Chinese and Japanese working style is, we may say, proactive. So
Presuming the
Chinese people is very proactive,
Uh-huh.
especially, yes, everybody are aware of the now China's growing market.
Mhm.
So it's a competitive market. So people start to say something, not only the market situation, maybe personality or cultural things, they are kind of brave. It does not mean, let's say, barbaric. It's more, let's say, proactive conversations they prefer to use language, etc., smiling face expression is bigger than Japanese.
Mhm.
When it comes to Japan, of course, economy is quite tough situation, the past 30 years. And then, of course, we have a culture, quiet, nicely, smile, not without smile, just a quiet, keep less face expression, etc. So the contrast is very big. So, of course, for example, when we have a conversation, we have to choose a language, Chinese language, Japanese language, English, etc. But the fundamentals be different because more proactive attitude, practical attitude, programmatic attitude Chinese people has. Japanese people is quiet, but everything is smooth, done, based on, it is very difficult to explain, but like a nice smooth sequence they have.
Mm-hmm.
And then
well organized.
Yes, well organized, we can say that.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe. But yes, maybe now China is more organized. We can say that.
That could be true too.
Yes.
That could be true too. In terms of, if we think about running teams in
Mhm.
Japan, when you came back and you joined McCann this time, did you come straight in as the president at that time?
Yes.
You did. So you've got how many people in the organization you have to take care of?
Now I'm taking care of, actually I have taken care of two units, McCann and Kraft, totally around 100 people.
100 people.
Yeah.
So you've got 100 people to take care of as a leader. What have you found, both from your experience when you were studying in the States, working there in that Western configuration, and when you were in China with probably a very different team, but still you're the leader. What things have you found in Japan also works well to get people engaged?
Yes, so this is a kind of, yes, listen to them carefully. This is the most thing. Yes, listen carefully. Of course, as a leader, we have to listen to them carefully, wherever company, whichever countries. But I think when working with the Japanese people, it's more carefully to listen because a lot of context they have. No strict forward sometimes. It's very, let's say, a lot of textures they have when speak something. And also kind of try to push nicely with encourage nicely and nicely, taking care of them. This is quite important. And also they are quite process-driven people. So they like a process. Enjoy process is the most important thing for them. Yes, it does not mean deny the result, but still taking care of the process nicely. And then process tends to be very sometimes messy and busy, but it's a process driven. Be nice to them, listen to them carefully. It's quite important.
Yeah, and you talk about encouraging. So what things have you found work well encouraging? For example, in typical Western countries, you know, it's money. It's a big bonus, pay rise, or, you know, big salary, this type of thing. So in other countries, that's not so important. What did you find worked well to encourage teams in Japan?
My idea is, for example, even Western people, not just only money, ambition, they're eager to grow. This kind of motivation is quite important. Of course, money is one key driver to push them. Japan is the same, but the people's more looking for some sense of belonging and also kind of safety space.
What sort of space?
Safety space.
Safe space, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
so because still we have a long, say, historical lifetime employment idea. What people is looking for is still stability, for example, be nice to everything, so harmonize, etc. So naturally they are looking for the space, safe space for them. So it's sometimes this kind of safe space creates a more sense of belonging and sometimes bigger than some motivation to get more money. So this is another reason, it's my understanding that why Japanese salary is not such an increasing because everybody, the first, it's an important thing, the sense of belonging and safe stability, yes.
And in terms of encouragement too, I remember many years ago, I was listening to the manager of a football team, and he was talking about, he's giving a public speech about coaching football players, and he was making the point that not every football player responds the same way to the coaching. He said, for example, in Australia, so I'm from Australia, so some Aboriginal-based Australian football players, different culture, they don't respond to a lot of pressure. They do respond to things like, hey, go out and have a great football today, enjoy yourself. They respond very well to that. They're very talented, they're very creative. Whereas others, it's like, hey, we're paying you millions of dollars, you better get some results on the board. They respond to pressure. So within a team, different people will respond in different ways to certain encouragement. How do you think about that? How do you think about, because you can't encourage everybody with the one speech,
yes,
you know?
Yes.
Everyone needs their own speech. So how do you think about finding the right speech for each person?
It's very a kind of tough question, but when it comes to the encouragement, it's kind of sometimes come back to the training. It's your world. For example, Japanese company prefer to use an OJT, on-the-job training.
Right.
It's not standardized. It's kind of personalized. We can say that. On the other hand, Western company, or we may say non-Japanese company, tend to create some standard. This is a big difference. Standardized, sometimes we may say in a different way, it's a direction. Or let's say policy, rule, etc. So standardization versus say on-the-job training type is totally different. Yes, so this is a very tough as a leader living in Japan because everybody expects each one has each one idea. So we may say it in a different way. So sometimes speech cannot work in Japan because they don't know what the standards means. So especially our industry, always we don't have enough time, so working harder. But look back the standard. If we have a standard process, it is easy to reduce the timing, for example. If we have a standard how to work, much easier to do more or say, let's say, empower yourself by using the standardization. For example, why we can say the out of box? Because we have a box. So that's why we can out of box. This is what we should do in as called creativity. But Japanese people tends to be follow each one by each one type of idea. This is my understanding. So even we have the same language, katayaburi, it's out of box, it's a kata means a style. Once we learn the style, we can break the style. So actually we have, so very unique and powerful way of approach, but reach out to that kind of direction, we have to listen to one by one and tell them one by one in a different way. So it is very difficult to go into some, let's say, eager to grow or some, let's say, let's go direction, let's go this way type of things is very difficult. It's very difficult to create some kind of fever intentionally by using the one word. So we may take a time, we may listen to them carefully and then tell them carefully, and then finally we may have a big event that we can create some fever to follow, so to do something, more energy, we can do that as a ceremony, but it's a very difficult, preparation is quite important. Yeah. So.
And also, in many cases in Japan, a lot of the encouragement was drinking. After work, go to the bars, and drinking informally, or lunches, this sort of stuff, to have that personal connection with people. But I suppose in many ways COVID has made that very difficult in the last couple of years. So have you seen also a change there from maybe things that worked before that perhaps not working now? And particularly, I'm thinking of younger generations who, you read these things, they don't want to go on the company trip, they don't want to go with their boss, they don't want to stay after hours, this sort of stuff, different thinking.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for you as a leader?
Yes, we are changing. So for example, before we tend to spend a lot of time as a family, so it's called, under the one company umbrella. But younger people start to enjoy their own space, their own life. It is good. But on the other hand, company doesn't have any specific way of doing because, for example, always say in Japanese, rashisa. For example, McCann Rashisa. Where's the McCann Rashisa going? Where's the McCann Rashisa coming from? So Western company, it's write down a lot of things as verbally. Even historically, we can capture what is a Rashisa, who should be, what we can do, etc. It's a very sense of feeling. So it is very difficult to capture, write down something because we don't like such as standard. Sometimes we can say manual. So you may know the manual people is a little bit behind the people cannot have do something creatively. So that's why we could the manual people is a boring people, boring employee. But on the other hand, again, it's my expectation to the Japanese younger people is you should learn with a lot of things as a standard. It's a hyojun, means it's a general things. So and then you can break through yourself because of katayaburi. So before we don't have any standard. So that's why we have to spend the time together eating, drinking. But on the other hand, the word company is coming from the eat bread together. So we have another word, kamano meshi o ishoni taberu. So it's good to know each other because we have to work as a team, even which company we are belonging. So spending time is quite important, but the problem is the purpose. So just staying together and then complain something, do something, drinking, and forget about everything, and then coming to the tomorrow, it's nothing. I think more younger people expect to have some more meaningful time, I would like to say. Yes, what kind of things supervisor tell them, as a friend, share the new things, they will come. But just say, it's a company things, it's come. I tell you, it's one of our OJT, you should come. drinking, enjoy. This is the habit, custom, history. So I don't think they follow this kind of direction.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And so if you think about one of the foundations for getting creativity
Mm-hmm.
is to have people who are engaged.
Mhm.
So if the team are engaged, they really care,
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, they want to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think particularly in your industry, as you
Mhm.
say, you know, sort of kate aburi,
Mhm.
going out
Mhm.
of the box
Mm-hmm.
and having that creativity,
Mhm.
something unexpected,
Mhm.
something fresh, something
Mhm.
original,
Mm-hmm.
is a driver
Mhm.
of your business.
Mhm.
Right? So you have to have a lot of creativity here.
Mm-hmm.
So one foundation of creativity is having engagement. People are engaged.
Mm-hmm.
But then you actually are taking creativity to a much higher level than most companies because that is your business.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you found works well to get creativity in Japan?
Basically, it's coming from a trust.
Mm.
Yes, because without trust, we cannot create anything.
Okay.
So trust is come first. Then this is kind of tough. It's a building trust with the Japanese, among the Japanese people is, say, sometimes take a longer time than you expected. So it may take time, know each other, a lot of things gonna happen, and then finally we can get the trust. Of course, this is a one way. Recently more, say, modernized, short time, so some resume or etc. We can be a friend, good friends, but the trust is quite important.
So what's the connection between trust and creativity?
Because the trust is a fundamental. You can see there, for example, let's say springboard, jumping board. So if we have a strong trust, we can jump higher, more. Because, for example, our industry's the presentation, just some light, some few kind of keywords, such as branding, such as concept, such as marketing, whatever language we use, even we have a 3 or 4 lines. Sometimes just a small cartoon we use, what kind of TVC we can shoot. If client doesn't want to trust us, we cannot propose. Even they cannot expect what's gonna things to happen in reality. So if we have a strong trust, we can do more. Client expect to do more. Expect us more, and this kind of collaboration we can do that. And then trust is usually coming from the good side. Yes, so team should be see the good side, collaborate by using the strongest, not just the weakness, because just the weakness, point finger to the weakness and nothing, it sometimes create a trouble. So trust is coming from the seeing the good side, collaborate strongest side, and then fundamental, it could be a springboard to jump to the higher.
All right. So basically what I'm hearing there is that, you know, in this industry, which is at the creative edge in what you're doing, there's bound to be crazy ideas, what seem like crazy ideas, or there are bound to be things that don't work, sound like a good idea, but it didn't work, it didn't proceed. So there's got to be, as you say, a degree of trust. And I would also wonder about the word of safety, and in the sense of safety to make a mistake, safety to try and fail. I'm guessing that's also wrapped up in the trust in this business. Would that be right?
Yeah, so that's why sometimes we have to create, it is very tough to say, but sometimes we have to allow younger people to make a mistake, for example. From the mistake, we can learn a lot. So, yeah, say economy is good, maybe a lot of challenge. We can say that challenge, give them a challenge. Sometimes fail, sometimes success, but we have to learn from the fail, the mistake, etc. So that's why we need a more opportunity the younger people. These days, Japanese economy gives us a huge pressure to make things stable. Another stability is coming. On the other hand, outside Japan, everybody want to grow, so ambitious grow. So this contrast gives us another pressure because we are working as an international company. People expect more growth, and then our kind of not only McCann, whole of let's say international company had a strong passion to grow, but Japanese company tends to be, even Japanese people tend to be nice, like a stay here. So this could be a gap. So we'd like to grow. I'd like to expect younger people, especially younger people, to grow, so that we'd like to give them more opportunity, more challenge, maybe in a different way, but yes. And then this kind of challenge, fail, learn, success, learn, this creates some another loop of trust. Because people understand, safe. This boss give us opportunity. Also, this boss can cover or support, do something more I'd like to express. So this is another trust. And trust give us another creativity, and we can do the loop. So big pressure sometimes works, but sometimes punishment. Japanese people tend to be pressure versus punishment. So of course we need a pressure. yes, sometimes pressure is quite important. Living in a zoo, animal living in a zoo is tends to be doesn't have any longevity compared to the wild animal. Means wild animal live in the pressure to survive. So we need a pressure, but pressure does not mean punishment. But some Japanese people misunderstanding pressure is punishment. So it could be in a different way, but yes, different understanding everybody has. But especially younger people is always afraid because they cannot see any big future of the Japan. And also they cannot mistake because once they mistake, they don't have any another opportunity. So they have a facing pressure. Is let's say make things smaller, nicely, smoothly, and a lot of small things. Supervisor ask them to do that, do more. So we are kind of do stuff people, do stuff. I say country, we can say that. But this kind of pressure, they are now like this. So give them a kind of trust, warm feeling, safe space, and come back to the trust.
So you raise a good point because Japan is a no mistake, no defect culture, right? And it's better to do nothing than make a mistake.
Yeah.
But in your business, that's not going to work. Right? So you actually have to get people to be creative, take risks, try things, experiment, try something totally different, original. So there's bound to be some issues there. So that's quite an interesting balance. And I think, as you mentioned, for most companies, that's not the case. They're like, keep it very stable, don't do anything, don't make a decision, don't make a mistake is better. So that's interesting. So in terms of, you think about trust, you talked about trust before, of giving them opportunities or whatever. From a leadership point of view, what things have you found work well in building trust with your teams?
Oh, another tough question. Why we can be a leader? Because we have a team. So this is my starting point. So trust is quite important things. How to create a trust is another way, maybe using a word, using a face expression, using such as drinking time. But anyway, we can say at least we have to spend the time with them. Yes, each one has a different way, in Japan especially. But try to stay with them, tell them in a different way, one by one. But let's say try to keep some consistency inside myself. It's very difficult because Japanese language itself is very soft. So a lot of context we can put it. So it is. You say we don't have any standardized. I say even in a word we don't have any standardized understanding. So everybody understanding different. It's fine. That's why they say I think, I was thinking. Well, kind of things don't happen always. It's a disconnection, misunderstanding. But try to fix the even misunderstanding, disconnection. This is my job, for example. Yes, everybody have a kind of it is very difficult to create a one. Say clear idea, clear vision, super clear something. So that's why we need a conversation, for example. We need a face-to-face things. So yes, this is my job. And then anyway,
just on that point, you talk about personal connection, having those conversations. There's two things I'm interested in there. One is time, because one of the problems for leaders is they're always time poor. There's always so much to do, and so they're always having this calibration of how much time they've got to spend with people, and often you can spend very little time with people because you're too busy doing leader things. So that's one thing about time, I guess. And the other one too, I guess, is the ability to find the point for that person that's going to really spark their sense of trust with you, like. Having that one-on-one conversation, understanding what their situation is, because, our situations change as we get older. Suddenly your parents are in hospital, or you have a child, or things change in your work from what's happening in your family life too. So a conversation we have with someone a year ago may be irrelevant now because their whole life has moved on. But do we know what's going on in their life? Do we have enough time to actually understand and keep up to date with what's going on in their life? So how do you deal with that type of problem?
Yeah, so when it comes our job nature, we are kind of people business. Only we have the people. So anyway, we have to understand our people. a lot of effort will be, let's say, required always, or is required in reality. The most tough is how to spend the time. Yeah. So maybe we can use some event, for example, some tools such as mail, email, etc. Try to create the fundamental things and then find the time, say hello, etc. Doing the something. Yeah, so we need a face-to-face conversation. This is my understanding. Even 5 minutes, small talk is good. Small talk sometimes give us a lot of sense of, let's say, idea. But when during the COVID situation, it is very difficult to having a small talk. Hey, Mr. Greg, give me 5 minutes through video. So that, but for example, we can see it like this. But the most important thing is out of the frame. We can do some frame, nicely wear, but just this is short pants, for example, easy. But so face-to-face conversation, try to show the interest to you. I would like to talk to you, for example. This kind of, say, strong passion to talk or passion to do something, exchange information is quite important. I mean, my experience when I was living in the US, so my English is not good, honestly, so I try to learn the English skill. So I joined a couple of, let's say, English, say, training school. And then I have a good couple of friends, and then one guy coming from the Korea, he's a guitarist. He plays guitar. So say during spending 3 months or sometimes, he suddenly said to, let's say, friends, I realized the most, let's say, he play guitar, the most nicely play guitar is when he started the guitar, because he has a passion to do something. And even when he created some love song to his first girlfriend, his passion is there. So when it comes to this English class, I think we can have a best conversation is the first time we met. This is his question. After that, we learn a lot of technical tools, etc. But we lost some passion to communicate. So beyond the language, we try to do something, different culture, different background, but try to be nice, listen to them carefully, try to tell who I am, what we can do, etc. So maybe passion or show interest is quite important. Another way to create a trust, because I want to know you, who you are, because I would like to work with you, kind of passion, not just convince, not just giving the pressure, etc. Try to be interested in you is quite important. And then in different way, believing you is another important things. Try to show the difference. So that with not just only say something, the face expression, body expression is much important, for example. Yes, luckily I kind of doing my gesture, posture a lot, so compete with the Japanese regular people. I believe it helps.
Well, all that is part of the delivery of the communication, isn't it? If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Are you doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years' experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now. And what about culture? Because you're a global organisation, so you have a headquarter culture, and then each country has its own characteristics. And then you have yourself as the leader, and you think what type of culture do I want in my organization? What culture do I want to create? So you've got the sort of umbrella McCann culture, then you've got sort of Japan, and then you've got you as the leader. So how do you go about building a culture in your team?
Yeah, honestly, I'm like a very blunt guy, so I'd like to follow the headquarters culture because that's why I'm here. So, but sometimes Japanese people doesn't care about headquarters. You realize such kind of things because we are Japanese. We have a proud of this country or history, etc. We can do what yes we want to do by ourselves. This kind of thing happens. So I try to understand. We are a different way. For example, brand is itself is a culture. So why do you work with McCann? Because you should understand our headquarters culture, and why don't we utilize here in Japan? So for example, this is a different industry, but for example, Ritz-Carlton should be Ritz-Carlton globally because everybody understands Ritz-Carlton way. It's coming from the Ritz-Carlton history, philosophy, etc. This is what I'd like to do, and I'd like to tell them the importance of company culture because when it comes to the advertisement industry, not just our industry, for example, what we can offer to the client is, we may say, the same. Dentsu can do that. Hakuhodo can do that. Foyers can do that. But what makes difference? Because people. Why people is here? It's belonging to the culture, company culture, etc. So let's come back to the restaurant model. I often use the restaurant model for our business. So we are a restaurant, sometimes Italian restaurant, sushi restaurant, whatever restaurant. But sushi restaurant serve the sushi. But different sushi restaurant using a different way to serve the people. So that's why people is coming. Even sometimes customers is a different. It's each sushi restaurant has each customers. Each customer. This is good things. Environment belonging to the culture. So why customer come to our restaurant? Because they like the chef, they like the people to serve, and of course people to next to you. So this is coming from the culture. So I'd like to create a culture to them because it's good for them, especially younger people. Learn one way, one restaurant way, it's a style, and go to the next way. It's not normal. I say still we have an under strong lifetime employee idea, but younger people start moving. So why don't we learn from this restaurant, that restaurant, then try to a lot of learning as a style and break through the style, out of box idea. And sometimes they may come back to us because they really like the culture. And then maybe 50 years, 60 years like myself. So this is what I want to do. So it's another standard. I can say culture should be cultivated, and especially for the Japanese people who are working for the international company, not just the money, the culture, what we can do. So it's a proof point. So this is what I'm thinking of it.
Well, the point you make there too about people moving, you know, mid-career hiring was sort of non-existent in Japan till Yamaichi Securities went down in 1999, and suddenly a whole bunch of
people is
were
moving.
out of a
Yes,
job,
yeah.
and they moved into other companies, and then you had Lehman shock again, a whole bunch of people out of a job and moving into other companies. And then we had the earthquake, tsunami, triple nuclear meltdown, a whole bunch of people out of a job and then moving into other companies. Now we've had COVID. A lot of industries hit very hard, out of a job, looking for a new job. So that whole idea of one company for life has changed quite a bit in terms of the stigma against moving around. So it's acceptable to move. So I think it's interesting. We've got a declining population, declining youth population, a lot more mobility compared to before. So how do we keep people in our companies? And I think that culture is a big defining point about making sure we can recruit them. That's one thing. Then we train them, but then they leave to our competitor. That's not so good. We want to keep them with us. So using the culture as a way to keep people inside the company, I think, is a very important tool. It's going to become more important. What do you think about that?
Yes, it is, because culture is behavior as well. So how to behave. Sometimes Japanese people misunderstand the culture in Japanese bunka, means sometimes more brain thinking of some things, but in reality, culture is more behavior things. This is my understanding. So how to behave, such as restaurant service. So this restaurant using a knife like this, table like this, type of things happen. So culture is coming back with the behavior, how to behave with the people. It's a style. So we should learn about the culture. Culture is not rule your brain. It's culture, it's rules, your behavior. So this is quite important because come back to the football coaches. If we have an idea of how to manage these pitches, they have to understand how to behave. Because sometimes we can say system. Systems coming from the kind of way of doing this rule, regulation, standardized. And then under the system, we have to find who I am, what we can do, even under system. And then say, the nice coach, good coach, maybe you should convert from here to there because this system is helping you to grow. This kind of conversations happen. So that's why I need a standard because it is very difficult to evaluate the people subjectively. Sometimes, yes, we cannot escape from like or dislike type of conversation because we are human. But once we have a standard, we may say, you are advanced here, you're behind here. It's more objective conversation can do. So objective is quite important. Be objective. Recently we use a lot of data because it means give us objective eyes. Japanese people tends to be very subjective. So this is why it's take a time to sometimes convince, I would like to say. Sometimes, let's say, be a friend. It's a very subjective conversation. Gambattemasu. But what kind of gambattemasu you do? Effort. What kind of effort you do? It's very difficult. So even efficiency, always English is efficiency is effectiveness, always the same language. It's kind of same stage. But Japanese people always say efficiency, 効率, 効率. But it's in reality why we chase an efficiency because of effectiveness coming. So these kind of misunderstanding lot of happen in Japan. So sometimes Japanese people can a lot of English, but in the katakana. So maybe understanding different. Even bunka, sometimes people rule the brain. So
it's interesting you say that because words like empowerment, engagement, no Japanese translation.
It's very difficult. Even empowerment recently,
Yeah, it's very difficult to translate those words into Japanese. You can translate them, but it's not as clear as it is in English. So if you were going to give some advice to someone who's being sent to Japan to run the organization in Japan, they've been selected, okay, you go to Japan, take over, run the organization. They don't know Japan. They don't speak Japanese. What advice would you give someone?
It is a very tough question because anyway, when you visit Japan, it's a nice country, but in reality, once you get in the door, open the door, through the door, totally different world is coming. So ideally, you need someone to trust, wherever speaking English or a common language. Yes, try to find a trustful people.
Just on that point, you talk about language. Often, in big companies, there can be a point where the English-speaking person becomes the type of bridge to the rest of the organization for the leader. And sometimes that person is probably not the powerful person inside the
It is very difficult.
Influential person inside the company, the most experienced person inside that company. But because they speak English, they tend to go to that person and feed their understanding of what's going on from what that person tells them, which can be incorrect sometimes, or maybe that person's not experienced enough, or not knowledgeable enough, or not connected enough. So how do we get around that problem?
Yes, this is come back to my China experience as well. I prefer to use people who can speak Japanese because of comfortable. So if I can give some advice to the people coming to Japan and work as a leader, maybe you should enjoy uncomfortable sitting in the people. So speaking English people must be comfortable because exchange a lot of information. But sometimes true, but sometimes not true. A lot of things happen because anyway, we cannot escape from the bias, for example. So why don't you enjoy uncomfortableness? Because anyway, strange country here in Japan. So if you can enjoy something different, maybe it helps you.
So in your case, when you're in China, did you find that there were key people, influential people inside the organization who's English or Japanese?
3 languages: English, Japanese, Chinese, and sometimes I use a translator because trustful translator we have.
So I'm just thinking that you've got key people who may not be fluent in English or may not be fluent in
Yeah,
Japanese.
so that I decided, for example, speaking language is different. I try to use one, say, written language when with the presentation, English.
So writing.
Yes, writing English or
English.
English plus Chinese at the moment. I decided use it. Put the Japanese, it's give something to Japanese speaking people. So we should be fair to everyone.
Right.
So luckily I'm working the TBWA Hakuhodo. It's a TBWA is an English company. So try to use the English first because we are part of network. And I prefer to use the Japanese, but try to avoid it. They put the Chinese to respect to the local people. So everyone knows anyway, I'm Japanese, I'm coming from Hakuhodo. So they know, but try to create some uncomfortable to myself. And yeah, to sometimes give me a more, say, trust from them.
So you learned Chinese while you were in China, by the sounds of it, yeah?
Yeah, my wife is Chinese as well.
Very good. That helps. That helps. So what about these people who are coming to Japan? Should they try and learn Japanese?
Of course. Yeah? It's nice greeting things. Respect to the local market anyway. So I'm living in China. It's a southern part of China. Sometimes some people prefer to speak in let's say Cantonese because close to the Hong Kong.
Oh, you're in Guangzhou?
Yes, Guangzhou. So and then yeah, sometimes having a lunch, having dinner, try to use let's say Cantonese, for example. But that's more Cantonese, but makes them happy. Yeah, try to make them happy. Even not I say I'm sometimes not comfortable too much, but yeah, try to make people happy. I would like to see the smile of the people. Yeah, so.
So apart from learning the language and becoming a little bit uncomfortable yourself, what other advice would you give someone who's going to be coming here to run the organization?
Be physical as well.
Be physical.
Sometimes people coming from outside and then Japanese people is sometimes totally different. So try to stay with inside your office, but walking around, yes, and then a lot of people in a different way, sometimes very quiet face, no face expression, but sometimes try to change their mind, having a small conversation and be nice, and then create some good environment for them. So walk through the street, say hello to everyone, because show the interest. Say, of course, I want to be a boss, but I understand, but sometimes forget about the boss feeling to be nice to equal, because sometimes Japanese people like the equal, fair. Not fair, but equality is quite important for the Japanese people.
That's interesting. You say not fair, but equal. What's the difference?
Fair, yes. Equality is quite important for the Japanese people, but because everybody aware we are equal people. It's the same background, etc. So equal is quite important. But fair is sometimes different because fair it depends on the situation, etc. So, for example, yes, fair is very open and nice, and let's say we may say the standard, etc. So, but different role and function, different people. So it is very difficult to do something in a purely fair way. Sometimes fair to the Japanese people is very vague, like this. Love is love, kind of things are fair. But different situation under the one umbrella, fair is a very difficult. So that's why we have a lot, say, lifetime employment and year by year, say, promote. So this is fair for the Japanese people. So a bit different. Fair, when we even fair in English and Japanese.
So everyone advancing in the same
kind of things. Yes.
Way is considered fair. Anything else you advise people who are coming here to run a team in Japan?
So enjoy staying in Japan.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
It's a great country to enjoy.
Yes, enjoy. And then also, yeah, so sometimes you can learn the Japanese historical things, bit different, quite unique things. So it helps you to do more communication. It's a casual communication. Yeah. So sometimes we are too much formal. Sometimes younger people doesn't want to talk to senior people because of hierarchy. We are hierarchy country. So, but forget about that because you are unique. They're coming from the overseas. So why don't we enjoy such a different type of things? Yeah, enjoyment. Come back you.
In terms of using your experience before, you moved from one country to another. You built up experiences in China, things you tried, things that worked. And then often we try and take those things into the next job and we use them in the next job, but sometimes it doesn't fit or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
How did you go? Did you find there were things that worked in China you could transfer across, or it didn't quite fit?
Yeah, so sometimes such as good experience cannot work in a different, say, company, even different country market, etc. Because we have different people. The people is not same. So they are not such a machine. So we may think of it in a different way. Of course, my good experiences, success experience should be, let's say, formatized, for example. It's a squeeze something. It's like the principle. Then they try to tell whether this principle can work or not. Even as a leader, try and error. We should do that. Yes, because during this kind of effort, people can feel your personality. Oh, new boss, using this kind of principle. Maybe this is another conversation, another opportunity to share something, exchange something. So as a principle, as experience is experience, but try to make some principles. Yeah, so system, we may say system, my system. And then try to check this system will work or not, because different people. Different company, different culture, etc. Yeah, but keep in try and error, doing something, keep doing is very important. Yes, maybe we can say strategically do that, not just doing. Yes, it's the think and do and then action. Yeah, that's quite important. I think it's because we take an action, we can see the reflection, the action. Yeah, so this, because we are communication industry as well.
Yeah.
Keep doing. Communication is each other. Yes. Yeah, coming from each other. Yeah.
We should be experts in
yeah,
communication.
Try to.
And what about, if you were thinking about your definition of leadership, how would you define leadership?
Looks like a job interview, but my leadership is as a salt. Salt is an enhancer to make things better, taste good. Okay. So I don't think I'm a strong type of leader. Maybe it's kind of more, let's say, soft type of leadership I'd like to. And then also we are people of business. We have to trust. So, and then it's coming to my leadership. I'm always thinking of how to taste better, not my taste. Taste your taste or client taste. So leader should be work as a salt. Sometimes salt give us some sweetness, sometimes bitter, etc. And the taste, this harmony creates. So that's why I'd like to say salt is my leadership.
Very interesting. Talking about makes things sweet, I remember the first time I came to Japan in 1979. In the summer, I was visiting a Japanese woman I'd met in Australia, visiting her family, and they served watermelon, but it had salt on it. We never put salt on watermelon in Australia. So I was eating this watermelon. I think there's something strange about this watermelon, but it did taste sweet.
Yes.
I can see you probably got a very sweet style as a leader here with a little bit of extra salt. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
This has been fascinating. And
thank
I
you.
Really enjoyed speaking with you.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me today. I'm very happy to talk with you. Thank you.
So please join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.